Hey everyone, welcome to the Her on Top podcast, episode 4. Today we are going to discuss our first relationships. In this episode, we discuss the sagas of our first relationships, what we learned from them, and how they shaped us into the people we are today. If you enjoy this podcast, please follow us on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you find your podcasts. While you're there, we would love for you to leave us a review with a comment or question you would like us to discuss in one of our episodes. You can follow us on Instagram at HerOnTopPod. All right, let's get into it. Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys. Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday. How are you doing, Alex, my love?
You know what? I'm so glad we record on Fridays because I've been sick since Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So I now have a voice back and I am very ready to use it. So I'm very excited. How are you doing, my dear?
I am good. Like I was chatting with you before we were recording. This has been a little bit of a busy season this month. It's just been, just kind of one thing after another. But I will say one cool thing that I got to do this week was in my voice lessons, we did a fun, let's record a Christmas song and turn it into a virtual Christmas card that you can send out to people. So I got to record in my voice teacher's studio this week and recorded a Christmas song. So that was really fun. And so we're in the process of, she's in the process of kind of editing it and then
sending it out.
And then we'll put it together with a background on Canva and create a YouTube video actually that I can send the link out to people. So
that is so freaking cute. And for any of our listeners who don't know, actually, because I don't know, how you would probably know this unless you know us, Kayla has the voice of a bloody angel. She has since we were little children. She's been able to belt it, like really belt it since we were 5. So this is very cool to me. I just want to know, what song did you pick?
I picked Judy Garland's Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Freaking classic. I love it. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? We should put that on the Instagram once we have it.
Okay.
That way our listeners can take in your angelic voice.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah.
Alrighty. So what are we getting into today?
So today, if you heard the last part of our last episode, that was a lot of teasing around what we were going to talk about. We were talking about our first relationships, what that looked like, how that kind of shaped how we thought about relationships. And then if we have time, we will also get into our first sexual experiences. So that should be a really interesting conversation. And I'm excited to get into it and learn more things about Alex that I didn't know.
I know. This is going to be such a good... I'm excited for this episode.
Yeah.
All righty.
So do you want to kick it off or would you like me to jump in and talk?
I'll let you kick yours off first this time.
Okay. So we kind of said this in the last episode too, that our first real relationships are what we are going to be focusing on. I did want to just mention there is kind of a funny story that my mom and I were just talking about last night that I thought was kind of funny. Because of course, like before my first relationship, I had a few just, I don't know, when you like call someone your boyfriend or say like, oh, I'm in a relationship with somebody, but it's like
happy love moments.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say my like first ever, like I have a boyfriend was in 5th grade and I just, dated, quote unquote, dated one of the kids in our grade or in our class. But there was
I
also...
don't remember this. Who was it?
Well, I'm not going to say their name.
Okay, I guess I'll have to get it outside of here when we're
Yes.
off record. Dang it. I don't know why I don't remember this, but I don't.
Yeah. Well, we went roller skating together at, like, the Linwood roller skating plate.
So cute.
Yeah, and I think one of the other boys that was, like, his best friend came with us at the time too, so it was, like, kind of a group date thing. Um, but also in my freshman year of high school, we went to Disneyland, which was actually my first ever time at Disneyland. Um, for choir, we did like a choir trip to Disneyland, and
We went to really extra schools, guys. Just in case anyone is like thinking and listening to this, like just know we went to very extra schools, so we did odd things like that.
yeah, and I also had a choir director that was
So cute. I had
very
the biggest crush on your
which
choir director. Oh my god.
yeah, but if you went to my school, that was like the weirdest thing because he we called him our gay uncle, even though he was not gay at all. He had a wife and kids,
Happily
but
married.
just being with a bunch of teenage girls all day, and he was totally down to talk about, like, whatever we wanted to talk about. He was, like, one of the most open people, and we just loved him to bits, but it was, like, very weird that other schools were like, "Oh my god, he's so hot." It's like, "No, that's gross." Um, anyway, he was very just laid back and was trusting of all of us to be safe and just do our own thing. So we had park hopper passes, and so we were like in California Adventures pretty much the whole time. And he was just like, okay, well, you can, we'll all meet back at a specific time and you guys can go roam and do whatever you want. So that's what we did. And the like group of friends that I was with, apparently we like stumbled onto, so there was a bunch of choirs that came. It was like a festival thing. I don't even remember what we did actually, but it was a big like choir festival. So there was a bunch of other choirs there. And so there was a group of boys that had the same amount of boys in it as we had girls, and we like palled around with them. And we all like chose one that we thought was the cutest.
That
And
is so cute.
yeah, and we just had a grand old time. And so my mom was talking to me about this, that I came home and was like, Mom, I have a boyfriend. And he was from like Oklahoma.
You're like, yeah, long distance, Seattle to Oklahoma. Let's go.
I know. Yeah. And that lasted for literally like less than a week, I'm sure, by the time I got back. And then it was just like, yeah, this is not going anywhere. And I was devastated for like a day. Um, but so that's a fun, like little first relationship moment that I had. But aside from those, like you said, a little bit of puppy love, a little bit of just like starting to experience what it would be like to have somebody else be interested in you in that way. My first relationship, when did it start? I feel like it was like the summer between
Freshman and
freshman,
sophomore.
sophomore year.
Because I have to
Um,
ask, was that when we were like all hanging around with like your little crew of O'Day boys? Because I used to hang out with one of them with you guys. I remember. Was that time?
I don't know. I like don't even remember because
I
you
want
didn't
to. I
even
don't
go
want to
to the
say it's.
same school that
We
I did.
didn't.
So
No, but
uh,
remember when? Well, I'll just say his name because honestly, I don't even think if he ever heard this, he would care whatsoever.
no,
But
let's not say his name.
oh, okay. Well, you do know who I'm talking about, right?
Are you talking about who became my boyfriend or the
I'm talking about how like with your boyfriend and then
Mhm.
the other friend that I used to like kind of like hang out with when we would all four do stuff together like downtown.
Okay. Well, this is gonna get confusing, so maybe we need to say names. So are you talking about Nigel?
Yes,
Okay. Yes.
100%.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of a little bit into how this started too, that so the first time that I met the guy that was to become my boyfriend, maybe we can come up with different names because I don't really want to say his name, but um
Why don't we
l-
call him Dylan?
okay. Yeah. So the first time that I met Dylan, we actually it was like a freshman social thing where we went to in Washington. We have a big fairground in Puyallup, Washington. So we went to the Puyallup Fair. That's in September. So like right after school started. And it was like all the freshman classes came to, or all the freshmen, both freshmen from both Holy Names and O'Day got to go and like meet each other and hang out and just go have fun at the fair. So that was the first time I met him. So I like knew him and knew of him, and he had gone to school with some of the girls that I knew at my school. Um, but yeah, we didn't actually start dating until I think the summer between freshman and sophomore year. And yeah, his best friend was Nigel. And he also became one of my really, really good friends. And
That is his real name, just for our
yeah.
listeners. We're letting him have his real name because
Yeah.
to be honest, his name fits him so well, I can't even rename him.
Yeah. Basically, how we kind of, yeah, I think we were all palling around in a group together. And then I got kind of confused on whether or not I actually liked Dylan or if I liked Nigel. And I think that was something that later on Dylan kind of brought to my attention was that I had a hard time actually focusing just on him at times and making him know that like I was all in for him. But that's kind of how we started. I didn't know if I liked Nigel or Dylan. Nigel ended up becoming more of just like a best friend and more of like a brother type person to me. He was always somebody that you could go to, and we, you know,
He
hung
was a
out.
great guy.
He
Like he
was,
was a
yeah,
nice, genuine, fun, funny guy who
yeah,
like he was one of those guys you got to be yourself around, like no
yeah,
matter who you kind of were, and it
yeah,
worked.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But then I started developing feelings for Dylan. And I mean, he was kind of the more quirky, like class clown, like funny type, but he also had this very like soft artistic side to him that I think I became really drawn to. Um and I think that's something that I kind of had as my past of like, I liked the guys that had a little bit more of, I don't know, like not just pretty boy. I don't have anything bad that's ever happened to me in my life. I think I had gone through some stuff with my parents splitting up and everything. And I think I liked guys that were a little bit more on the outskirts of,
Yeah.
like the popularity circles. Because
Yeah.
I was definitely not like Miss Popular either. So,
No,
um,
we were not.
yeah. So we, yeah, ended up dating, and it was definitely my first real relationship. We dated for like a year and a half. Um,
I thought it was longer than that.
no.
No, about a year and a half. Okay.
Yeah, we broke up, I think, junior year.
Okay.
Oh my God, yeah, because you took that stud muffin to prom, whatever his name was. He was
Actually, I just literally was going through boxes, not to get us off topic, but I was literally going through boxes like 2 weeks ago when we were putting stuff in our storage unit from our apartment. And I have one that's an album of like yearbooks, documents, all kinds of everything that's little that I keep, right, over the years. Your prom photo was in there. I literally ran across your prom photo a month ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was never someone that I dated. I met him at a choir thing too, and yeah, he was gorgeous, and I was so glad he agreed to go to prom with me.
You guys made a stunning fucking couple.
Geez. Yeah, he went to Blanchette.
Oh, he did? Oh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he went to Blanchette, but yeah, I had some arm candy for prom. That was about it. So yeah, I guess, do you have any specific questions around my relationship? Because I could kind of just like talk about random stuff, but if you feel like there are specific things that would be helpful for people to know, that would be great.
Okay, I do. My first one is going to be, what was kind of the moments with him when you guys started dating that what made you feel like this is so right? Like everything about this and him with me is right. And I do have a follow-up question to this afterwards that will kind of keep it going too. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. And this is kind of hard because even though I do remember this relationship, it also feels like I only remember bits and pieces of this relationship. So it's hard to know exactly what I thought back then. This question will be a lot easier for me to answer when we talk about our actual partners currently. But I think just he made me feel seen. Like he could be really romantic. I remember one time, one of the first pictures we ever took on our flip phones back then, was like we had a big park that was right by our school. And, um, of course, kids go and hang out in parks and places that they're away from adults. And I remember we were there one day after school. I don't know what we were doing. There was a bunch of us that went up there, and he like dipped me and kissed me, and like that was really sweet and romantic. And I feel like he kind of made me feel, yeah, seen and appreciated and loved and cared for. And um I always felt safe with him. Like that's always been a big thing for me, is kind of feeling like I could be myself and be safe with somebody. And he definitely always made me feel safe. He made me feel like, as long as he was around, like nothing bad was going to happen to me. So I feel like that's kind of what after, yeah, I don't really know exactly like what our whole, like, where official story is. Which
We were
is sad.
kids.
I kind of wish I like knew exactly how we started dating and how that conversation went. But once we did start dating, I know that that's kind of how I felt. That we were yeah, young and in love and being cute and romantic with each other, I guess.
You guys were. And I do remember the four of us doing stuff like going to Pacific Place and going to movies and doing stuff because, like, for everybody who doesn't, obviously, I'm just naming off places that people don't know. But Kayla and I grew up very Seattle kids. Our parents worked downtown.
Yeah.
We were downtown a lot. Like, it's kind of like kids who grew up in New York a little bit. Like, not quite as intense as that. But we were left in the city to do things by ourselves, walk around, eat, go shopping, whatever, all the time. So like we did grow up doing that. And I do remember you guys being I do remember back then doing stuff and you guys being really, really, really cutesy with each other. Like, and just really like kind of sweet. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Now, I guess my follow-up question to that, though, is do you actually remember the points where you said to yourself, there is no way this is for me and this can't keep going? Do you remember that point?
No, because it ended with me blindsided. So I was not the one that ended the relationship.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. I thought you were.
No. So I guess, should I spoil the ending and then we could go back and talk about the rest? Okay. So basically, after a year and a half, and again, later, this is kind of what I was able to get from him about why things ended, that he didn't really feel like I was always truly kind of showing him that I cared for him in the way that he needed. But he ended up cheating on me. So this is a whole like
I forgot about this.
long story so I'll try to give the Cliff Notes version of this, but essentially he was supposed to come to my house. So my mom was actually really good, almost
Your mom was great about
to
this.
a fault, of letting because now looking back, I'm not sure if I would make the same decisions that she did, but as a teenager, I was happy that she, like, allowed boys to come back and stay with us and, you know, like, I could have my boyfriends over, and that wasn't a big deal.
I would say
Um
your mom was really cool in the way that she took of you were, and I'll preface this for everybody so everyone
Yeah,
knows. Kayla was not me.
right.
Kayla was not constantly finding ways to get herself in trouble. That was
Mhm.
not who she was. She was a very, very, very mature high schooler.
Yeah.
So I do understand where your mom took a little bit more of like a European uh approach to it of like, I'm gonna allow him to be here, allow you both to be in my home and under my watch, and what you
Yeah.
guys do here, like, that's okay,
Mhm.
but we're gonna keep it at home, and that way you're not like sneaking off random places and things like that, and maybe
Mhm.
getting yourself into something
Mhm.
because you want to spend this time with him. Like, I think she did
Yeah.
a really good job of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think parents being willing to have their kids explore some of these things under their roof versus just saying, "No, you can never do this." Like, no matter what, your kid is gonna find a way to do it. So,
Always.
whether it's in a car or in a park somewhere or, their house, it's gonna happen. So, allowing there to be space and a safe space for them to explore those things while hopefully having some conversations around that in your home, I do think is a good thing. I'm just not sure if I would let my child like have their significant other, especially in high school, like sleep in their bed. Um, because
Yeah,
I was allowed to do that. And
you were.
there were moments where it was like, I don't really know if I would have liked this person to have been sleeping in my bed after the fact, but it is what it is. So, anyway, back to how my relationship ended. Um, so essentially, he was supposed to come to my house after it was like a Friday. It was Friday night lights, so we were gonna go to a football game, and then we were gonna come home, and he was gonna stay for a while because his parents, I think, were out of town, and he was actually like staying with us while they were out of town. Um, and so I like went to his school after school, and he just sits me down and basically says like, "I've found someone else that I like, and we're breaking up." And I like lost my fucking shit. I ran away and ran to a park that we used to go to all the time together and just like sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And it was like one of those moments where it was like, this person that really hurt you is also the person that you like want to comfort you too. And
Yeah,
so I feel like
100%.
after like an hour or so, I like texted him where I was. And I don't remember if we had a conversation again at that point or not, but we ended up going to the football game with this other person. So it was another girl from my school who was actually a grade above me that I don't think I'd ever even met her, like knew her. She was some kind of
The
random girl.
balls on you to
Yeah.
have gone to a football game with
Yeah.
your boyfriend and the other girl.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop there. So she was there and they were together the entire football game, but his parents were out of town. He was still supposed to be coming to my house. And my mom didn't come to the game. So we didn't actually have a ride home. And for people that don't know, so our schools were private schools, which meant most of the kids that were going to these schools did not just live, right in the neighborhood.
No,
And my
you could
school
have
was in
lived.
Seattle. So,
Yeah,
and my house was like 30 minutes north of Seattle. And
this was not a situation where like
yeah,
you just get on a bus and go. Like,
no, it was
no, it's
like,
a lot more work into it on the parents for
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't remember how we originally were going to get a ride home from someone, but anyway, it ended up being that I think she lived in the area where I lived. And so we actually got a ride home from her and her dad. And I think her sister, because her younger sister
What?
also went to our school. And yeah.
How do I not remember this? Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
God.
So we were broken up and he was still coming to my house. And then we got a ride home to my house from this other girl that he now is with and her dad. And I think her sister was there too. It was insane. And so then he was at my house and we were broken up and I was in full breakup mode. I was like, I was very like melodramatic as a teenager.
She was
I
Gilmore Girlsing it up, guys. She was making the box of everything to get rid of and to like the hideaway box and like doing the
Well,
things.
Gilmore Girls may not be the best reference because they're not necessarily sulky people,
No,
but
they go home to
yeah,
wallow. They
yeah,
wallow after every relationship.
yeah. And so I was like on the floor in our like basement living room playing the saddest music ever, just sobbing while he's like upstairs doing whatever, probably texting this other girl. Um, It was the weirdest thing, and then my mom comes home and is just like, "What the hell is happening right now?"
What is going on in my house?
And so then she has to comfort me, and I think she was kind of like, "Well, I don't know what to do because his parents aren't home, and, like, should we just take him home?" And, I mean, we were high schoolers, like, he coulda stayed home by himself, but I think she had agreed to, like,
Have him stay
watch
there.
him, quote, unquote,
Yeah.
yeah, while his parents were gone, and so she was just like, "I don't really know what we're gonna do," and, like, again, I was like, "Oh, I don't really want him to go, but I do because obviously we're broken up," but the whole weekend was just like a shit show. It was back and forth. We ended up, like, still doing some sexual stuff together that my mom kind of sort of walked in on. And yeah, I'm not a saint, guys. I am not a saint.
She isn't.
There were still times that I got into trouble with guys too. So
Yeah.
don't think that I was like Miss Perfect because I was not.
She just
Um
wasn't as bad as me.
yeah, and and then my mom actually like went through his phone because she was like trying to get some evidence of like what was happening. Not good. She should not have done that. Um but she was just like, "Well, I just want to know like why this is happening and like show you that this is not something that you should be doing and blah blah blah." And oh my god, it was
What did
just
she find in his phone?
just like the text messages between him and this other girl. And I think
Oh.
she was like wanting to show me that like don't be stupid and like go back to him when he's obviously already told you that he's dating somebody else.
Yeah.
But I mean, not condoning going through another child's phone. Don't ever do that. That's not a cool parent move, but I know she was just trying to protect me.
Probably get you wake up a little bit too. Like I know you're
Yeah.
trying to hold on to this, but he
Yeah.
ain't worth holding on to.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think my mom did end up calling his parents and they just decided that yeah, he was just going to go home and stay at home by himself for a few days before they got back. And so we drove him home, which he lived like almost an hour away from us too. So
Jesus.
um yeah. Yeah. So it was just a whole freaking mess. And then we ended up kind of being like on and off again. I kind of had this thing of like, well, I was first. I was like the number one
I
person.
called
Like
dibs.
this other girl is not even like in the sphere that I am. And so, yeah, we had kind of this toxic like back and forth of like, even though he was with her, I was like, he's still mine. And I still like tried to get him back. And there was a few times where we did kind of had like a relapse a little bit with each other. And honestly, we were in communication with each other all the way like through into college and couldn't really like shake him for a while for myself because I just like he was my first love and I felt like
Yeah.
I couldn't get rid of it. And I even had a few other boyfriends after him. The one right after was mainly to make him jealous, and that didn't really work. But yeah, it was a fucking mess. It was a huge mess. Um, and so I do think it was helpful for me after the fact later to kind of have some clarity on the fact that he felt like and there were times that we were at like dances and I kind of flirted with some of the other boys that he went to school with and stuff. And I think he kind of felt like I always didn't really fully accept him for him. And I don't feel like I had one foot out the door because I was definitely like head over heels in love with him. But
You really were.
I do think that there were times when it was like, well, maybe is there something else, out there that could be.
I will also just
And
say for like, not that this is a big thing. Like I know that this doesn't mean a ton, right?
yeah,
I get that. I'm being a little superficial here.
yeah.
But guys, he was nowhere in her fucking league. Absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Especially
Well,
physically. I'm not going to lie about that. Like, you were way too hot for him.
oh,
Way too hot.
I don't agree with that
I
whatsoever.
think that every single time. Even when I just saw that picture of us like in high school at the Nordstrom Santa, I'm like, you were stunning in high school. Like, I mean, I'm not saying you're not now, but like, you were very, very, very pretty. So like,
Oh,
no.
yeah. Well, again, there was
And
a
he
lot
kinda
about
seemed a
him.
little bit like a dud at sometimes to me. Like,
Well, I think he had a really hard past in childhood. Like his
yes.
family situation was not great, and I won't go into all of it, but
No.
I think that again, that was something that I was attracted to that on the outside, he was the class clown. He made everybody laugh. He was like the goofy, silly, kind of stupidish one that not that he was stupid, but just kind of acted stupid.
Yeah.
Um
To kind of
and not
deflect
stupid
from
dumb, but just kind of like, "Why are
yeah,
you doing
goofy.
something?" Yeah,
Goofy.
goofy, and so on the outside, I think he kinda tried to make everybody see on the outside that he was okay and fine and, funny and goofy and whatnot, but I think that was his defense mechanism because there was a lot of crap
100%.
that he was going through at home a lot, and so I think that's what I connected on with him. Again, there was kind of this underbelly of him where he had some darkness, and then he was also really artistic. He was really into poetry. That was something that we got into. He did like slam poetry um competitions, or I don't, is it just called slam poetry? Anyway, in Seattle, and I did some of that with him. We also volunteered together. We both did the teen link hotline that was with the crisis center in Seattle, and it was like teens talking to teens. So he also had a really like soft side where he really cared about other people and was empathetic. And so I think that's really what I was drawn to, and I felt like, I was the one that saw all of that where other people didn't. And kind of like I got him whereas other people didn't. And I mean, I felt that too. Like there was a lot of stuff that I had gone through in my life with my parents splitting up and stuff. I mean, not to the degree that he had, but
There
that
were shared experiences there.
yeah, there were shared
Yes.
experiences there. So
Okay.
I understand you saying that, but there's also a lot of stuff that I feel like, yeah, again, maybe I still feel this way that I saw that other people didn't, that we connected on. Like one really sweet thing, he would get to school really early in the morning for exactly what reason I don't 100% remember, but like, and thinking back to this, I'm just like, how the hell did I get up this early? I get up at like 6 or 7 every morning, and I am like dragging myself out of bed before my child gets up. I had like 7 a.m. choir every day in
Oh,
high
girl, I
school.
remember zero period, and I don't know how the hell I did it. I don't know why.
And so on a few days a week, we would meet at Starbucks or Tully's, which was right by my school, at like 6 a.m. Like
And
we
have
would meet
and have like little breakfast coffee.
downtown at 6 a.m. That means
Well,
I would have had to get up at like 4 a.m.,
I
if
will
not
also
before
say
that, to be there by that time.
I will say though, to give a total shout out to our mothers, we had very
corporate powerhouse mothers
Yeah.
that could go to work as early as they probably humanly could have possibly wanted and still had even more to do by the time they left. So thankfully for that, like I get your mom was probably going in the office early and it was easy to drop you up there and this, but
Right.
yeah,
No,
6 a.m.
totally.
dates is not normal.
No.
That's not a normal date.
No, but yeah, we would meet at the coffee shop I'm chronically late to everything. So I was definitely probably not there at 6 a.m. He was though. He would take the bus to school every
But like
morning
you guys were, yeah.
and we would have coffee and we would sit and chat. And that was like, yeah, our time to catch up with each other before school. And then, sometimes we would meet after school, but, he would write poetry to me. We would read poetry together like that. I always felt like that was something that we really connected on. Not that I was super into poetry, but I, as a singer and a lover of arts, like that was something that I felt like I connected with him on.
Yeah.
We both loved music. We both loved like R&B music. And so it was just, yeah, we had a lot of amazing moments in our relationship. And
I'm gonna ask you one very quick question to summarize first relationship.
Yes.
What is the one biggest thing you learned from it? If you could only pick one thing and kind of like short, sweet, to the point, what's the one biggest thing you learned?
This kind of gets into the next question, but I don't know if I can pick just one. I think there's two. One is always be true to yourself, but in that being true to yourself, meaning finding somebody that makes you feel like you can be your true self.
Okay.
Finding somebody that makes you feel safe, that makes you feel secure, because even with all the craziness that happened and it was a teenage relationship and it's fine. I still felt that way. And I actually still really have a positive light of that relationship because of that. Like there was a lot of shit at the end and it was hard. And that was the first time I actually went to therapy was after that relationship because I was severely depressed. But after I was able to kind of process it and move on and know that it was just kind of what it was, I really, it was a safe relationship that I really liked. Now, I will also say, pick somebody that you have good sexual chemistry with. That is also what I took away from that relationship.
Well, ain't now that the damn truth. Yeah, I don't think you can get that far in a relationship if that is not there. Unless maybe the two people, I can totally understand people have different sex drives. So maybe for two people who are not very sexual and don't really, maybe that works for you. But the general public, no.
Yeah. Have good sexual chemistry with the person that you are in a relationship with because it makes it a whole lot more fun.
I love it. I
know I took a lot of time on that. Let's get to you, Alex, and talk about what was your first relationship?
Alrighty. I'm going to kind of skim early years because to be quite frank with everybody, I wasn't the biggest dater. And Kayla knows this. Like I was not the biggest, I wasn't. I want to say maybe through 6th through 8th grade, there were a couple different boys. I can kind of come up with 2 that I kind of liked. One that I actually would actually hang out with and we would go to little things and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But not big through that time. And then throughout high school, I had a very tumultuous relationship with my best friend who was a guy where that just, I think for the longest time when I was very young, I really kind of believed that this person really made the most sense to me and kind of filled in all these, gaps of me and they just fit perfectly in every one of those gaps. And that makes sense because he was my best, one of my best friends. But once I got older and old enough to realize there's absolutely no way that would have ever worked long term. Like, and even when we kind of like reconnected paths later down after college, when we were like living in California, there just would have never been a way for us to be together. Like, it just wouldn't work. So I think that was one that I was hung up for a while on. That really was kind of, it was kind of hard. Like, it was just hard.
Yeah.
Because I kind of always had this feeling, you know, like back deep within of like, you know, I think we are supposed to be together. I think we are. Like, even though we kind of hang out with other people and like do these other little things and stuff like that. And like, but I think at the end of the day, like, we're both the person that each of us at the end of whatever we're doing want to be with each other. So why are we not? And all I can say is thank God. Thank God. So that was really kind of took me all through high school. Like, that took freshman through senior year, like a long time. Like, he even still came and like hung out and visited me my freshman year in college by the time I got to my first year of college. And then through college, there were guys that I kind of periodically dated a bit. And there were, you know, it's kind of hard because I do remember going through my college career and there would kind of be guys that would be kind of interested in me. But I just wasn't that interested back. Like, it just wasn't. Like, I mean, like, I actually have a really, really, really funny story of college from, I think I was probably in my maybe my sophomore, junior year of college. And I did I was in a sorority. I did all of that. I was in the Greek system. Like, I partied my little face off. And I remember some of my sorority sisters and I were hanging out with a group of these guys from this one fraternity that we used to hang out with a lot, that we really liked and had a good time with. And there was this one guy in the same grade as me that was like super into me. And had like would constantly try to, like, anytime it was like a group of like us three girls kind of hang together, right? And so anytime the three of us would come over to the guy's house and everything like that, like, he'd be trying to come find me and he'd try to come talk to me and blah 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 and this and all this shit.
Yeah.
And so, and for anyone who knows, I can't hold my liquor to save my life. I'm not a good drinker. Just it's not my strong suit. I don't do great with it. And I was very small at the time. I did not weigh very much at that point. So the alcohol that probably went in, it was bad. So we had this one summer night of this like party that we were doing, and we were going from house to house and all this shit, and eventually ended up at my sorority sister's apartment that they all lived at. With the couple guys that we were all three hanging out with. And like, they were kind of dating two guys that were in the same frat a little bit. And then they were kind of trying to get me with this other little guy so we could all kind of be together and all this shit. And I got ungodly sick. Like, we came back from the bars and partying and everything. And I think we went to like go make like, you know, like mac and cheese, whatever, like college, like drunk food coming back home.
Yeah.
And I want to say I took like a couple bites of something once we got back. And after that happened, I was violently ill.
Yikes.
In my big sister's bedroom the entire rest of the night. Violently. Like, so bad. So bad. So sick. This kid knocked on the door. And like my two sorority sisters are kind of trying to come in and kind of take care of me and like not embarrass me, you know, in front of these guys that like, they obviously know like I'm not feeling great, like, of course, but like not trying to embarrass me of like, she's literally vomiting everything that could have ever existed in her stomach out of her right now. Not that disgusting picture of me. And so they're kind of trying to come and go and help me and do whatever. And he like is not getting it. So like, he just keeps knocking on the door. And like, he sat outside that door until the next morning when I had to leave at 7 a.m. to go move into a new apartment, which, yeah, why I did this the night before I was going to move in somewhere. I don't know. But literally sat there all night long waiting to try to have sex with me while I vomited all night long. sat outside a door.
He was waiting to have sex with you?
Like he wanted, like he kept trying to hang out with me, trying to like, I mean, it's college. Like everyone wants to kind of fuck everybody everywhere. So I get it, that was, well, also I was in the Greek system. So maybe that's a more Greek system thing, but I will say, yes, that was kind of the commonality of what everyone was trying to achieve most nights we were going out was
right.
Go home with somebody, right?
Okay.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
But yes, but like he had been trying so long to try to like kind of get me to like him and want to like kind of like do that, whatever, where like I think he was just hoping maybe he'd get lucky. Like maybe he'd get really lucky and literally sat outside that door until I left at 7 a.m.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
and this is not the same guy from high school.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
This is a random guy from a fraternity in college. Nope.
Yeah.
But like this I'm just kind of or at least I'm trying to illustrate for people. I would have people be interested in me, but it wasn't what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he wasn't really what I wanted. Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
Or when I got close to the end of almost leaving college, there was another kid he was so sweet and he was so smart and on paper should have been like everything I wanted, but kind of like you said with the whole end of your
story
of your relationship that like there needs to be sexual chemistry there. There just needs to be. And I'm not saying he wasn't an unattractive guy. He wasn't, but there just wasn't that spark. Like there just wasn't. And I mean, and he tried for like 2 years and it was so cute. And I mean, I remember like the last year I was in college, like a New Year's Eve where I was working in a bar at that time. So I had worked most of the night, came back. My really, really, really good core group of guy friends were having a big New Year's Eve party that night. So I stopped by when I got off work. And it was like, and I got off pretty early, thankfully, that night. And so it was like before midnight or whatever. So I was there at midnight and like the kiss and everything and all this kind of crap. And so like, we're all kind of celebrating. I end up deciding I'm going to kind of head home and it's after midnight. So I go to walk out and walk down and I went to school in a town where it snows all winter, feet of snow. And he comes barreling out of the front door and like, actually accidentally tackles me into the snow because he can't really stop to come like kiss me for New Year's and like magically kiss me outside. And like, it was like, honestly, it was one of the cutest things, but I just wasn't into him the way that he was into me. Like I just wasn't. So I kind of had this really like, I don't want to make people feel bad for me. Like, but I kind of had this like really hard time through college or high school and college where the guys that I kind of maybe seemed to want weren't wanting me back at that time. And the ones who did want me, I didn't really want them back. So it was kind of always a miss. Timing and wants were kind of always a miss for me going through that whole time.
So then let me ask you this. What or who were the guys that you were wanting that you felt weren't then reciprocating that back?
Oh, goodness.
Like what kind of traits were you seeing in those people that you were attracted to, but that you weren't able to get?
That's a really good question. Now I have to kind of like, think back on it. I mean, the high school thing kind of, that one, I don't know. That one, I don't even know how to describe the traits of that. I mean, he was just like one of the most fun people I'd ever met at that time. And it's funny because he's grown up and he's changed so much now that he's an adult. So it's comical to me that like the person that I like fell in love with as a high schooler is not who he ended up being as an adult, which is very interesting to me. But like just one of the most fun, outgoing people that like a person so charismatic that even if other people don't think that they would normally really like that guy at all or want to be friends or hang out with that guy, but they have so much bloody charisma that it doesn't matter the type of people they're around. People just were drawn to them. Like that enigmatic of like a personality. I think that was one of the really big things that got me someone with a really big personality. Those ones really, really hit me. Or, So I think it was kind of something like that. Or I think when I was in college, I was just looking for someone that kind of fit me. And I think the hardest part was that I'm a very odd person and I'm not very normal. And like, I like weirder things. And I just am I'm a very old soul. I should not have been born in the time that I was probably born. And I just felt like no one really fit me. Like, I just felt like no one really fit right. It just wasn't, it didn't feel right.
Yeah.
So fast forward to, I think which is going to be probably very comical for people, but I will say, like, one of my biggest and first like relationships was the year that I had finished college, right when I had left. And it was a flaming dumpster fire. Best way I can describe that whole situation. For any of our fans out there that are Taylor Swift listeners or lovers, if you know the song Getaway Car, that song perfectly describes this relationship. Yeah. So what ended up happening, I'd moved to California after I graduated college. My dad was living down in the same area. We were going up to meet my mom up in Northern California, up at Lake Tahoe, for a concert over Labor Day weekend. And we were all going to stay in Lake Tahoe. And we had like 2 concerts, 2 days that we were going to go see. And like, it was a little family trip that we were doing, that he and I were coming up from Southern California to meet her coming from Washington for this. And we had gone to a restaurant to go have some dinner. And I don't remember what had happened before this, but I was in a little bit of a rare mood, which is of no surprise to most people that know me. Something happened and I was a bit peeved and I was a little on one. So we end up going to this restaurant, and there's a waiter that comes to the table. I'm trying to order a drink that, like, I'm looking back at the bar, and like, keep in mind too, I've worked in bars and restaurants at this point. Like, I know what goes into drinks, and I can tell from what you have kind of stocked up there if you could probably do this or not. Like, I know to not ask for this in a dive bar, but I am definitely not in a dive bar. I am in like the luxury boutique hotel of South Lake Tahoe, like $700 a night rooms, like just gorgeous. I asked for a specific drink. The waiter told me, I have no idea what that is. I don't even think we can make it. And what I love is I like daiquiris, like classic daiquiris. So no, they're not blended, just for everyone's purpose. They are not blended. They should have never been blended, ever. That is not what the intent was. Dear Lord. Okay. Learn your history. He looked at me and goes, "Ma'am, I don't have a blender." And I looked back at him being in a rare mood and said, "Well, that's very good, because a classic daiquiri should never be put in a blender. So I'm very glad you don't have one behind the bar to make that drink." Yeah, I was being a biatch. And so he's like, "F this table. I'm not doing this table." And he sends the bartender over to the table. And he asked me what I wanted. And I had told him. And I said, "From the looks at what you've got up there, I think you probably should actually be able to make this very easily in an establishment like this." And without even a flinch, he goes, "Yeah, I can make that. Of course I can." I was like, "Oh, well, that's great. Your waiter has no idea what he's talking about. Well, perfect. I'm glad someone sent you over then." Makes it. End up learning long time later, had to Google it because he had no idea what I wanted and was not that versed in pre-prohibitionary things. So didn't know what I wanted, but he figured it out on the fly, made it everything. So we ended up going back there the next day for happy hour before we go to this concert. And he's flirted with me the whole night that we were there the night before. He's now flirting with me, bringing me and my mom. We're out on a patio, right? And he's bartending for the entire restaurant. And it's a full happy hour. And it's a beautiful day. There's a server that is assigned to our table. Well, he keeps coming out every 2 bloody minutes from the bar to bring me and my mom free shots, free this, free that, like little things to pump us up, get us excited for the concert, all this stuff. And my mom is like, Jesus Christ, this guy is really into you. Like, no one spends this much time when they need to be in there doing that with this. Like, good Lord. We get done. My parents go to get the seats. I'm closing out the bill and signing for it and whatever. And then I'm going to go walk over and meet them. And I get the bill. And this is a bit overzealous of myself, but I look in it and there's no number. There's no note. There's no number. There's no nothing at all. And I was like, what the actual fuck? How off my game am I that this guy has been flirting with me for 2 whole days and doesn't think to give me a number or a note or anything? What the fuck? I was like, I need to see how wrong I am. So I take part of the receipt and I write on it. And I think I wrote on it, I said, if you ever happen to find yourself in San Diego, give me a call and put my number. I got a text 15 minutes after I slipped it. When I gave him the book, he was in the bar. I passed him the book on my way out and just immediately left. So he had to open the book and then find it in there. Well, I got a text a few minutes later and an invitation to go out for drinks later that night when he got off from working at the bar. We went out for drinks that night. We went on another like little morning date the next day. And after that, I had to go back to San Diego because that was where I lived. I didn't live in Lake Tahoe. And we go and we're walking through a casino as I'm like getting ready to go leave or whatever. And he goes, I've never done this, so I don't really know how we do this. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't get it. He's like, long distance. And I was just like, oh, you like me that much? Oh, okay. Like, all right, I guess I can just pick up a bartender in Lake Tahoe. Sure. Yeah. Okay, great. Good idea. Let's give this a whirl, I thought, and I will say, here also in lies a lovely little thing that started happening after this relationship and kept progressing. He was about 10, almost 11 years older than me at the time that I met him as well.
Yeah.
So he was a good little chunk older than I was. So basically we then started like a long distance thing going, and he would fly down to San Diego to come visit me. I'd go up to Tahoe, like back and forth, until we were really pretty official. And then it was basically just a giant whirlwind is all I can describe it as. It was a whirlwind that was destined for failure from the moment it started. It was fun, and it was nothing like I'd ever experienced. And I will say especially early on, he was very incredibly caring and went out of his way to like set up and do such nice little elaborate things. Like I remember one of my best friends was living in Northern California at the time when I was in San Diego, and like I finally started dating this guy. And as everyone knows from me saying through high school and college, I never really like had a steady boyfriend. There was never like, oh, Alex and her boyfriend. That didn't exist. So when I finally said I have a boyfriend, everyone was like, what the fuck? This is huge.
Yeah.
This is when this happened, it was a big deal for everyone because I had turned everyone down. So they're like, who on earth is this guy that she finally was like, okay. So we go and we're doing a little road trip up. I go meet her up in Northern California. We drive over to Lake Tahoe, and she's going to come stay the weekend at his house with me and meet him. And he had like said he had a surprise for us on our way, and there was all this traffic. So we ended up being like so late trying to get there, and it was hard. But like that day that we got there, we met him at the hotel that he worked at. And he wasn't working that day, but it was his day off. So he was just having a drink at the bar. And we kind of come in and we've just been driving for hours and all this stuff. And we're kind of frazzled and everything. And he goes, okay, guys, so I got a surprise for you. And I had no idea what this surprise was going to be. And I was trying to figure out the whole drive up here of like, he has a surprise for us when we get there. Well, he had gone to the spa and had booked 2 massages for the both of us after driving like the whole day, and booked us both massages. So like escorted us over to the spa. There was champagne waiting in there. Like he did very nice things that if you know me, there is no secret here. I'm a very, very bougie person. I like really nice crap. I do. I just do. It's what I enjoy. I'm not a camping girly. I'll never be a camping girly. It's not my thing.
Yeah. So I think we have that in common, though. I'm a little bit more rough around the edges. I can handle a little bit more than I think you do. But yeah,
definitely. But we like nice stuff.
We like nice stuff.
We like going nice places.
We were raised.
Yes. Like it was kind of like, it was a quality over quantity thing. Like, you know, like let's go for the total quality and have a really good experience.
Right.
We maybe aren't going to do it a million times.
Right.
So he just did things like that, you know, and very attentive in ways like that. You know, I'll try to wrap this up here in about, 3 minutes maybe. And let's see if I can basically wrap kind of a lot of the end of this all up.
Okay.
So fast forward to, we've been dating for a couple months here, and we got into, I don't want to call it an argument, but a little bit of a spat when I was there for New Year's Eve, like weekend. And my same friend from Northern California had just also actually started dating, who is now her husband. Adore them. They both came to stay with us and have a weekend up at Tahoe for New Year's Eve. Like we were spending New Year's Eve in Tahoe. Well, we kind of are having this little disagreement in this casino at one point, and my friends Josh and Trisha are kind of like doing laps around, being like, okay, we're going to give them their space and let them work through this, whatever. Well, by the time we've worked through a disagreement, the ending of the disagreement work through was he was just going to move to San Diego. Yep. We met in September and decided like December 30th that he was going to move to San Diego. And he was going to move down and live with me. And we were going to start doing life down there. So it was about a month in between. He moved in like February and came down February. So about a month to close everything out up there, all that kind of stuff, and then get down there. He moved down. But it was just such a whirlwind that wasn't, when I look back at it, none of the things that we did and the experiences we had, they didn't feel like real life. Like it was so magnified that like it was so much fun, but there were so many parts that I look back and go, that's not really reality. Like that's living in a fake reality.
Do you feel like you kind of had like a bachelor relationship? Like from the TV show, The Bachelor?
Yes, a little bit. Like the things we did were just so like outlandish, and like all of the, like it was just so swept up in this exciting thing. And I mean, I get it too. Like he was so excited. He was originally from the Midwest. He was so excited to be living in Southern California. And like we had all these things at our disposal and experiences and all this kind of stuff to do all the time. And I was so head over heels for him. And he came from a family that was kind of broken up by the time he was an adult, like in college, by cheating. That was how a bit of his childhood had gone. The relationship before me that was for like 5 or 6 years or something like that. That's how that ended. So there was never a piece of me that ever would have thought that he would have cheated on me. And what ended up happening months down the road, and actually fun story, the day before my birthday was when I learned all of this. Really, that was a fun birthday I had. I learned that he had been sexting, having emotional affairs, you name it, with women from the day I met him. I ended up finding this, and it wasn't just a thing that happened later. It was literally like I found things from like the day that he was texting me being like, sweetheart, I cannot wait to come move down there. And tomorrow I'll be living in the same city as you. And I cannot wait. And like my friends in Tahoe have like put together this little like going out night for me and all this stuff. And some of these people were people like one of these girls was a girl I met. I met this girl. I shook her hand, things like this of like, and now I'm seeing like what they're doing behind the scenes and mind blowing, just mind blowing. So I should have ended it then. I didn't. I tried to give it everything because, and I think here was the other thing, because it took me so long to find somebody that I felt like I really clicked with and that was like the right person for me and met me in all these different areas.
Yeah.
And that I had done this so much later than everybody else. That I think there was a big part of me that thought, if I waited this long, like, and I lose this, like, what is there after this?
Right. What
like,
now?
What is going to come after this? And like, and this was a period of time too, where, you know, you were getting in a very stable relationship, almost to the point of getting married. My other friends, all of my other friends that I also had were in these very stable relationships that were all headed towards marriage. And here is my life imploding, just imploding. And what I thought was right and who I thought was right wasn't. And I just, for a long time, couldn't live with that. Like I couldn't live with that failure of that. So I tried to hold on to something a lot longer than I did. And we kind of, and the very end of it, it had a really odd ending. I will say this, where
it really did.
It had a very odd ending where his dad unexpectedly died of a heart attack while we were still living in San Diego. It was like towards the end of the summer. And we were literally heading on our way out to just go eat dinner somewhere. And we were like literally walking down the hallway out of our apartment. He gets a call from his brother, who he doesn't like talk to very often like that. His younger brother, who lives still in Wisconsin. And I just see him literally fall down the side of the hallway wall, just literally fall onto his ass on the hallway wall, collapsing, that his father has just died of a massive heart attack. So he ends up going back to Wisconsin. This is after the cheating stuff has happened and we've tried to work through this, everything. He goes back to, you know, take care of affairs, bury his dad, all of this stuff. And as I'm, you know, trying to be as supportive as I can from afar from San Diego while he's trying to go do that, I see close to one of the days leading up to him coming back home finally, because he'd been gone for like 2.5, almost 3 weeks maybe at this point for this. And I remember I had gone to like, I think I went to go pick up his like dry cleaning because he wore suits to work. So I went to go pick those up knowing he was going to come back and need them. And I was hanging him on a rack that we had, and his iPad was sitting face up, like right near this rack of clothes. And I sit there and I'm hanging this and I look down because it's going off. And of course, an iPad is like linked to your phone. So I see that as he's going home to take care of his dad's affairs and passing, I see the words pop up on his iPad saying basically the likes of, baby, can't you send a dick pic, please? And I'm just like, this is what you're doing while you're burying your dad. Are you joking me? Do you think that I actually gave it up at this point? No, I didn't. When he got home after that, he had excuses for it, saying that like, you know, this was a girl that like knew him from earlier and like she was trying to take advantage of him being in a vulnerable state with his dad dying and all this garbage. Just all horseshit. So I end up he ends up going back to Wisconsin because his dad's affairs were just such a bloody mess. Like he ended up going back there. And I was not going to go. I wasn't going to Wisconsin. So at this point it was I staying in San Diego or was I coming back home to Seattle? And I decided, I guess at this point, I'm going to come back home to Seattle and we'll try to figure out if we can. We met and dated long distance, so maybe we can make that work. So I think I tried to for a few months into the fall before it finally it broke so badly. I mean, it was broken from the sad part.
I think it went all the way till Christmas, I think,
I
because
think it was close to.
Your mom was like prepping for him to come to Christmas. And I will just say that during this whole relationship, like you and I didn't really have contact at all. We went through a long period of time where for some reason, I don't really know why, that we didn't really talk. But it was once you came back to Seattle, and I think I had just randomly reached out to you because I was like, I haven't heard from you in a really long time, that you were kind of going through all of this. And I feel like that was one of our real reconnecting moments. And
it was.
You kind of leaned on me in that moment, which, at that point
I needed you so badly.
Yeah,
I didn't know what to do.
Either in school or out of school. I don't remember, but I was already like a therapist. So I was a little bit in that.
You were very versed. You guys were at the point, you guys were living in the U District, I think, at that time.
Yeah. So then I would have been out of school.
Yeah, I think you were graduated.
We lived there when I was
at SPU, right?
Yeah. So anyway, basically, I was there for you during.
You were there through all of it.
The ending of this relationship anyway. And yeah, it was a lot of like, you didn't even know if he was coming back or not. It was a really like weird situation of he was in Wisconsin with his family and you thought he was going to come out to Seattle and meet you. And then you guys would start back up where you were again. But it ended up just being like, no, I'm just staying here. And it was really weird.
Yeah, and I ended up finding out he ended up getting a job working in like a bar in Wisconsin, and he had hired some girl like pretty close after, like, and we were still kind of trying to be together at this point. And he'd hired this girl as a server, as a waitress. And when we like took the break, like when we decided to basically, I think, split, it was maybe a week after, and then he announced he was with that girl that he had hired from that bar. And ironically, he ended up marrying her, actually. So
yeah,
he ended up marrying that girl that he dated right after me.
Yeah. Didn't they have like a baby right away too?
Yeah, they had a baby they dated pretty quickly. They got married very quickly, like in a really sad sack of a fucking ceremony in Florida that I would have never wanted. So power to her. I have my dream wedding coming up this summer to my delightful, amazing fiance. So thank God that was not my life. But yeah, it was just, all I can say is that whole relationship was a total mind fuck. Like it was just like, I basically, there's like a line of something that I like that reminds me of this every time, where it's like I struck a match and I blew your mind. And after that, everything was just destined for failure. Like, I think I was just, I don't know. I think I just kind of walked in and was this being that maybe really fascinated him. But like, I think the best way I can say it is I think he loved the idea of me more than he ever loved me for who I was. Yeah. I think he liked the idea of what I could be and what other people saw me as.
Right.
But he didn't truly love who I was.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, I mean, I'd never met him. I didn't know him, but just from, even what you've said about all the cheating and stuff, and that, his family kind of broke up from cheating as well. So there, is a pattern there. That it sounds like he just wasn't in a space for himself where he was ready to be in the type of relationship that you were looking for.
No.
And maybe there was an element of like, I know this is what I should be wanting. And this is somebody who would, allow me to have that if I was ready for it. But obviously he wasn't, because he was, doing other stuff on the side. So yeah, it's a lot. So
I was late for my first one.
Yeah. Well, we both ended in tragedy,
We did.
we're both here and we both are now in
Very happy endings.
healthy, successful relationships as of today.
Yes.
So I know we're a little bit over time for what we normally want, but I want to know, what did you learn from all of that, going through all of that and kind of having some time to reflect? Obviously, it's years later now and you're in a different relationship, but having gone through that experience, what did you learn about relationships and about yourself?
What I learned more than anything else from that relationship, and I mean, this one will hit both. So I think this answer will hit both for me, is that you can't and you do not sacrifice your worth for anything. You can't. I think there are moments where we like to believe that we're mentally strong enough to get, humans are resilient creatures, to have been on the planet as long as we have. I mean, honestly, with as dumb as we are, it's miraculous how resilient we are. So I think we're able to believe that we can be resilient in faces of unwanted situations, like the cheating or something like that, where I now look at it and I just go, I took my worth and I dumped it in the toilet, and I didn't believe that. I believed that I was worth what was happening.
Right.
And I also think that the other big part of that is I think that, and I won't say all cheaters do this, but in that situation, I was made to believe a lot of the time that parts of me and how I approach things and the way that I approach things and who I am were reasons that how do I say this? All these things about me were reasons for the cheating. And I think when I really took a step back, it was like, no, that's not right.
Right.
Someone who truly loves you and loves you for who you are and everything that you are doesn't take parts of you and try to use that against you to excuse their own behaviors. Right. So I think I just learned that, I am worth someone who will work hard for me and our relationship and will try and will give everything they have and will be honest and wants to be honest and honestly with me is, I think, the biggest thing I learned that I just didn't have at that time, that I was just so worried that I was so far behind in time and I'd never make it up. So I needed to make this work.
Yeah.
And I just didn't. No part of me needed to make that work because I was worth a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what I came out of it with. And I will say once I got that lovely self-worth, I was single for quite a chunk of time because I had set a bar of what I wanted and what I wanted, the work that I wanted to see someone put in to be with me. And it took a while. It took me a while to find a person who was willing to go out of their way to do these things to show me that I am worth every minute of their time and their energy, because that's what it should be.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And, that didn't happen with my first well, I guess it did a little bit in my processing because I went to therapy after my first relationship, which ended up getting into a lot of family stuff, which is, what I work with on and with people wanting to work on relationships is a lot of the stuff that we end up seeking in relationships or the patterns that we develop in relationships. A lot of that stems from our childhood and the things that we observed or saw growing up. So those are very interconnected, but I agree with you. Before I met my husband, that was something that I had to go through too, was learning, what am I worth? What am I willing to put up with? And what are my absolute, I'm not going to put up with this. This is not okay. and I deserve more than this. And I want a partner that is going to meet these standards that I have for myself.
Exactly. And I think once you give yourself that, once you've got a clear compass of like, and I think it also comes from also kind of knowing who you are too.
Yeah.
I think, just it took me, and here's the other thing is I think that time is such a killer for a lot of people, where they let the concept of time passing allow them to not do the work that maybe they need to do for themselves to be in the place that they actually want to be, and are able to say what they want and have standards and have boundaries and all of that. And I do think that that's kind of a sad thing, though, that, we kind of get caught up in that, and in what society says life is supposed to look like and how it progresses and the time it progresses, to just also learn that like everyone is on their own time clock.
Absolutely.
Everyone is. I mean, like, I couldn't have heard it better the other day than I think it was Vera Wang, and she goes, I didn't make my first wedding dress until I was 40. And like, think how successful that woman is in what she does. It's like, I think we all kind of just need to sometimes let go of the concept of time and let the fear of that go, to be able to say, I'm going to process my life and my relationships and everything in the way that I need to for me. And when I'm done, I'm done. And that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and it's also now, being married and having a kiddo, like there's lots of stuff in front of me, but once you get here, you're just here. You're just living life, trying to create new memories, doing more things together. And it's amazing. Like, I wanted to be in a relationship. I wanted to be a mom. These are all things that are great. But there's no rush to get here. There's no like reason that you need to be here sooner rather than later. Other than, if you meet a partner earlier in life, great. And if that's where you're going with that partner, great. But if you end up not meeting somebody that fits you until later, obviously the kids thing has a whole like biological clock to it. But, I think, there's, once you get here, you're just living life still. It's an amazing life, but you still got to create the things. You still got to do the work in your relationship. You still got to work. You still got to do all this stuff. So it's not like you get to a plateau of happiness and then you're just like always happy for the rest of your life.
Easy.
Yeah.
Relationships are never going to be easy.
Oh my God. Absolutely
human beings are so complex of creatures. Yeah. Melding two people together, like, that's not to say you're not going to argue, that you're not going to have blowups.
Yeah.
I have a hole in my drywall right now from one of my blowups, like in an argument. Like,
not great.
No, that's not great. I'm overly dramatic, everyone. I am one of the most dramatic people you've probably ever met, so that it doesn't help me when I get angry. But yes, but just to say that when you can see the underlying constant of love and support and connection and happiness, all these other things are going to ebb and flow. It's never going to be easy, like you said. It's never going to be a plateau of happiness. But when you know you have that solid foundation, you can get through them very, very easily, because you have all of this backing up what the both of you believe and are working towards.
Right. Yeah. And I think the moral of this story is some people do get it right off the bat, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of learning and growing through that. But a lot of us, our first relationships are kind of like pancake relationships. The first pancake is always a little, just wonky and not quite round enough. I feel like I use this in another.
That is so good. Do you use that with your clients, the pancake analogy?
I don't know. I feel like did I say this in one of our other podcasts?
No, I've never heard that, but I love it.
Yeah. It's just kind of the pancake relationship. Like, it's the first pancake. You get to work out some of the kinks. You get to kind of get your feet wet to even just like know, what does it look like to be in a relationship? How do I relate to another person in this way? And sometimes it ends very tragically, like both of ours did, and you get your heart broken. But you know what? I'm actually grateful for that heartbreak. It
Me
was
too.
so hard. And so, I mean,
It was
especially,
so bloody hard.
yeah, like first heartbreaks are always the worst.
They
And especially,
kill you.
yeah, they really, really do.
Like the level of the amount of time that I really truly thought I was never going to be happy again.
Yeah.
Or like that you said earlier on that like you're still this is the person who has just shattered and tattered your heart into a million pieces, but
Right.
they're the only person you want to come to your defense
Right.
to comfort you. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're the first ones to do it too. Like you haven't been
exactly.
there before. And especially on my end as a teenager, it was like,
Yep.
you feel like the world is ending. You feel
Yes.
like you're never going to be happy again. You're never going to find a person that's going to love you in the same way again. It is one of the worst feelings. But I think there's a lot of things in life where we have to have that yin and yang to know what it looks like to be on the other side.
Yeah.
And, there wouldn't be this like longing to be in love and be in a relationship that is healthy without knowing what is the consequence if it doesn't go well. Like there's a risk to love, and the risk
There's
is
always a risk.
putting your heart out there and allowing somebody else to hold it and to care for it and
Hopefully not break it.
hopefully not break it. But there's always that chance. And, hopefully we're hedging our bets against that chance with having
We're
a
doing
healthy
everything we can.
relationship.
Yeah.
But there is always that chance. And that's with any relationship. I mean, obviously it hurts a lot more with more like intimate romantic relationships, but any relationship, friendships,
Yeah.
even relationships with parents and family members. Like there's always the risk of it not going well and being hurt because of it. And so, I think going through heartbreak, it's a huge learning moment, even though it sucks and it hurts while you're in it. But I do think you can learn a lot from understanding what does it feel like when relationships don't work, and then how can I grow and learn about what I want and what I don't want.
I don't think anyone could have said that better. And and like you said, it just gets you to the place of knowing what you do want.
Yeah.
And you don't, unlike just in case anyone, like any like female, male is by chance listening to this, that like you feel like what you want isn't okay. It is okay.
Yeah.
It is okay. It's
It
okay
is
to have a
totally okay.
standard. It is okay to ask and expect someone to show up for you and to show out for you in the same ways that you're going to do for them. Like
Yeah.
that, let me just rephrase, in the world of now, like all of the internet dating and swiping and the endless amounts of choices that it feels like, oh, okay, well, if this one doesn't work, there's 20 others right behind it, so what does it matter? But it is okay to just say, this is what I expect, and I'm not going to budge from that. Like that is okay. And eventually you will find somebody who that meshes with. And I mean, it was actually, I know we need to close out, but I will say it was just really cute to me yesterday. My fiance came home from a lunch with a really good old friend of his from like high school, growing up, everything, who lives in Seattle. They met for lunch yesterday, and he was asking Connor about like me and, all these things and stuff. And what Connor had said is, Connor goes, if you would have written me on a piece of paper and wrote Alex on a piece of paper and given us these pieces of paper and said, this is who you're going to marry, by the way. There is no way on paper we would have added up. There's no way. There is no way on paper. But I think when you just find the person that they're worth it to you, they are worth it to you. And you will do whatever you can and whatever you need to do to show them that. And it's not a chore and it's not work. It's just out of love, of I love you and I want to be able to give you the best and the best of me that I can.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Relationships are really hard and it is work, but I think it's worth it to go through the experiences you need to go through to learn what you want, what you don't want, and to value yourself and to know that you're worthy of all of these things that you want and need in a relationship. We'll continue to talk more about what does a healthy relationship look like, but I think most people want to feel safe. They want to feel seen. They want to feel heard. They want to feel appreciated. They want to feel loved. And they, again, want to feel that this person is going to be by my side no matter what, that they're loyal and they're going to be honest and we're going to work through things together. And I think if you can find that,
you can work through a lot of shit.
You can work through a lot of shit. Yeah, for sure. So with that, I think we're going to be done for today. Thank you for sticking with us for a little bit longer of an episode. We didn't get to talking about our first sexual experiences. So
that'll be its own episode.
That will be its own episode. We
like to give you guys the full story. Okay. We don't want to give you a half-ass story with no detail. Okay.
Yeah. We are very good storytellers. So some people are going to be really turned off by that. And I'm so sorry, but hopefully there are other people that will stick with us and will enjoy our detailed stories of things.
Yeah.
But as always, we so appreciate you guys listening and going through this journey with us. We hope that you're getting something out of these stories that we have, bringing it kind of together to something that you can take away.
And look forward to new episodes later, because all these foundational things just about you learning about us, we just want you to know who we are and kind of how we've gotten to where we are, so that when we kind of get into more topics that are really going to relate to you guys and your relationships and the things that you go through with your partners, you'll have this understanding of who we are first. So thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, we're still going to use anecdotal stories throughout all of our episodes. But these first episodes, we're kind of just trying to go through a lot of the experiences that we've had and the different things that we've learned in relationships and sex. So with that, please feel free to follow us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. And please write us a review with any thoughts that you have or questions with topics that you would like us to bring up in our conversations together. We would love to have a listener question every episode that we can dive into a little bit more at the end of each episode. So if you have any questions, please let us know. You can find us on Instagram at herontop.pod. Hopefully we'll get some fun things going up on Instagram as we go. And then, as always, please just tune in to next week's episode where we are going to be talking about our first sexual experiences. So hopefully you're excited about that. And with that, take care. We will see you next time.
See you next week, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.